Hokmah, from the verb hakam, which means to be wise. It covers a broad area of meaning in the Old Testament. First, it could be skills or ability of craftsmen and artists in Exodus 28:3. Animals able to overcome their weaknesses are also called wise in Proverbs 30:24 to 28. Person's judgment or decision making which leads to success is also considered to be wisdom in Proverbs 13:17. Wisdom brings strength and favor. The wise avoid acting recklessly or out of anger. Proverbs 14:35. Openness to discipline or instruction represents another important aspect of wisdom. The wise person loves to be rebuked because it makes him or her wiser, according to Proverbs 9:8-9. Likewise, the wise person listens to advice or instruction which emphasizes his humility, Proverbs 12:15. Unlike the arrogant, who are worse than fools, the wise exhibit humility, Proverbs 3:7. Wisdom is closely related to speech. The tongue and lips of the wise produce wisdom, Proverbs 15:2-7. And their speech is persuasive, Proverbs 14:3. Wisdom is often paralleled with righteousness, according to Psalm 37:30. The wise are characterized by obedience, Proverbs 10:8. Wisdom is also associated with the law, and wisdom is associated with the fear of the Lord. The wise maintain a reverent attitude toward God because a fear of Him serves as a starting point for wisdom. So all of these different aspects of wisdom come in play when it comes to our trials, because any one of these aspects could be involved in any one of the particular situations we're facing. So, but how often are we found unprepared for one or the other trial, and we feel we don't know what to do? Or instead of thinking, we do stuff. We try on our own to overcome, to do. Okay, I need to do this, I need to do that. And then you're at your wit's end. You're like, I've tried everything, God. How come you haven't helped me? Well, did you ask me? Oh, I didn't know I had to. Well, guess what? You spent all this time trying to do it on your own. Guess what? You weren't successful. Sometimes I acted that way too. So I'm not holy. I'm just a weak human being that goes through the same trials as every one of us. And sometimes I try to do things on my own, and then I realize, well, I need to get down on my knees. I need to pray to God, ask Him for help, and then I receive help in a very miraculous way, totally unexpected, from out of the blue, without any one of my efforts. And I said, well, why didn't I do it in the first place, or the first time? Well, sometimes we learn on our own mistakes. The best lessons that are learned from somebody else's mistakes. But the ones that are most felt in our lives are the ones that we made from our own mistakes, right? Because when we make mistakes, it hurts. And that pain of hurt stays with us for the rest of our life. And that adds wisdom to our lives as well. Now let's see how God is represented in James. James says that God is a giver of wisdom. And guess what? He doesn't tell you, oh, guess what? I have a reservation for this wisdom for somebody else, so I cannot give it to you right now. No, it says He gives without reservations and regardless of person's previous record. Maybe you have acted wisely yesterday, but today you encountered something that you don't know anything about. God will always give you wisdom. But there's one but. Okay, so what is that but? James says that you have to ask in faith. Well, what does that mean? What does it mean? Asking faith. Well, James describes faith that manifests in action. Paul, in his letters, he says, regardless of your action, faith is the one that saves you by grace. Well, James, on the other hand, comes to a different aspect of faith and says, well, without action, faith is unprovable or unreliable or maybe not even defined. So you have to prove your faith in action. And God hears the prayers of those whose lives demonstrate that they have faith in Him. Does it mean that if I believe that Jesus exists, that I have faith? Well, a lot of people believe that Jesus exists. Demons believe that Jesus exists, right? That doesn't make them any better than what they already are. What kind of faith is God expecting from us? Is this some kind of intellectual faith or, let's say, emotional faith? Oh, I believe in Jesus. I believe in God. Does it make any difference? No, I don't think so. Because faith in action is something that we do day after day, time after time, that proves that we actually trust God. Like I read one of the postings on Facebook yesterday from my friend John Lopez. It said, faith is not the issue of effort. It is the issue of surrender. I thought, well, that's interesting. What do you mean by that? And I began to think about that. And it looks like faith does not suggest that mere intellectual or cognitive belief in the proposition, doctrine, or even a person, though it does sometimes entail doctrinal belief. Faith is typically understood as involving the whole self, mind, heart, and body in a relationship with God that expresses trust and a grateful response to His loving initiative. Again, as we said, when you don't know what to do, you have to place your trust in God, in Jesus, that knows what to do, and He will guide you. But sometimes we're so overwhelmed with the situation or trial that we attempt to brainstorm on our own. Okay, so what can I do to get out of this? And we completely take out of our mind, out of our heart, and out of our hands the person that has to be in all three places at the same time. God, to whom we promise to surrender our lives. So in a way, we still hold on to that trial. We hold on to everything that we think we can do, and with our own efforts, we're trying to hit the wall, hit the wall, hit the wall, and the door is right next to it. You know? Because we are almost like blind children that we can't see, we can't think, because we're overwhelmed with this one situation that we need to overcome. In verse 6, all of a sudden, James is describing some kind of individual. Well, let's read what it says. Verse 6, it says, But let him ask for it in faith without any doubting, for the one who doubts is like the surf of the sea, driven by the wind and tossed about. For that person must not suppose that he will receive anything from the Lord. He is a double-minded man, unstable in all his ways. Yesterday we had a chance to go with Beth to the seaside hikes to see some ocean waves. They were very, very wild and high waves, high tides. Nobody was allowed to swim, but we were enjoying to see how the waves were breaking down with the power of the wind and with hitting the beach. And when I read this passage, those waves came to mind. You know, they didn't have a uniform sort of rolling action. They didn't have a uniform beach hitting action. They were kind of chaotic. And sometimes when you look at the sea from the biblical perspective, the sea is usually describes the world or the chaos or the powers of evil attacking our shores, our lives. So a double-minded person is described here or compared to the surf of the sea. Why? And what is a double-minded person? Well, according to some of the commentators, double-minded person is a person who tries to live two different contradicting lifestyles. He tries to be with one foot in the world and then with another foot on Sunday in the church. So Sunday I'm a Christian, Monday through Friday or Monday through Saturday I'm somewhere else. I'm not a Christian, or I don't reflect that value anymore. So when you have this kind of a mindset where you try to compromise between one or the other lifestyle, you will always be unsuccessful in approaching these kind of trials. You will not withstand the test of faith because you have none, or your faith is very weak, or it's not focused on a right thing. And it's interesting that he says that double-minded person is unsuccessful in how many of his ways or her ways? In all of them. So if you're trying to live a good life, are you going to be successful if you have confused mind? No. Sometimes even in the decision-making process, people say, well, should I do this? Maybe I should do that. Or should I do this other thing? Or should I... Make up your mind. Sometimes it's not a question of finding the will of God. It's make up your mind. And sometimes these people frustrate us. Sometimes we frustrate ourselves because we are confusing. We don't know what to decide. And what am I going to wear? That's the most frequent question women normally ask. Husbands can put on whatever's in the closet or whatever's laying around, and just go to church, go to work. Women always have to decide. Sometimes they become too dependent on what the other person will say, and they will still do it the opposite way. Okay, if you want me to do that, then I'm going to wear the other one. So what was the point of asking? That's what I call double-mindedness in the simplest of the examples. But in any case, in verse 12, in verses 9 through 11, James is describing the poor and the rich person in a very unusual way. He says, let the poor brother rejoice or boast in his circumstances because he is somehow higher than the brother who is rich, or whoever a rich person is. And he compares the rich person with a grass that withers and is being destroyed by the sun rays. And in Israel, it's very interesting that he mentions it, because in Israel, grass and plants grow very fast. They can grow overnight, literally. On the rock, there's a little bit of water, there's a little bit of moss, and the grass or flowers start to bloom in that little puddle of water and little moss. And then, if the wind and the sun comes from the east, from the desert, literally in 2 or 3 hours, the sun is so hot and the wind is so scorching that it withers that grass in a matter of hours, not months, not seasons, in a matter of hours. And that's how James is comparing whether you trust in God or you trust in money or in anything this world has to offer. You will lose, because if you trust in your money, if you trust that your money is going to buy you health, buy you wealth, buy you comfort, buy you independence, you are wrong, because your life can disappear in an instant if you trust in these things. But if you trust in God, whether you have money or no, whether you have health or not, whether you have trials or not, you still win every time and all the time, because you have the proper focus on the proper person of God and not on yourself or on your possessions. Well, I think it's enough for today. We're not going to be able to go through the entire passage that we have started. But what are some practical things that we have learned so far from what we have already covered? Well, first of all, do not get discouraged when the trials come your way. Rejoice. Even though it will be hard, but rejoice not in the fact that you have a trial, but the fact that God loves you and He considers that you still need to grow, that He sends